January. In the studio, it is the Trustmark studio. Jason White, who is the Speaker Pro Tem of the Mississippi House, and we gavel in at noon today. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you, sir.
All that good stuff, Paul. We're good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to be back with you.
You okay?
I
ask everybody this because if they say no, we'll say we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Yeah, but you have to ask a guy that has 3 teenagers at his house if he's okay.
God, your life sucks.
3 teenagers at one time.
3 teenagers, 14, 15, and 18.
Jeez, your life sucks.
I'm just thinking.
It's actually pretty good, Paul.
I'm just thinking of Philip.
I'm finding out how dumb I am these days, right?
Just thinking of Philip when the job of President Pro Tem goes. Scheduling is a little bit some of the responsibility here. Did Philip realize you had 3 teenagers at one time?
He didn't care.
Okay, here's the end of the story as far as the Jackson thing is concerned. If I have a reckless driving charge, well, I have no idea what a reckless driving charge is now. How much the ticket is on that?
$500.
I think it is. I don't think it's a misdemeanor for sure.
It's $500. I was a municipal judge in a former life, and it's give or take. It's elevated from careless driving. You've heard of careless driving.
Yeah.
It's once elevated from to reckless.
I would think shutting down an interstate, a major interstate, next to a hospital and the highway patrol, and doing donuts and shutting it down for an hour would be at least more than $100. Reckless driving charge, a misdemeanor, carries a maximum fine of $100 for the first-time offense. $100.
$100.
Second offense can land somebody in jail, maximum fine of $500 according to state statute. Councilwoman Virgie Lindsay, whose Ward 7 borders the interstate, said the city should look at federal charges since the event occurred on a federal highway. I agree with that. But maybe it's something that you guys at the state legislature, because this is happening more and more now, and these things get out of control. Couldn't you guys look at that as far as a possible bill to stiffen the penalties on that?
We could. When I left the Capitol yesterday afternoon late, it was still daylight, and I came over those marks. Have you seen them on the highway?
No, I haven't seen them, but I think they're going to be there for a while.
I mean, I had seen the video that was on social media.
Is it in both lanes or just the southbound lane?
Northbound
lane.
Northbound
it's in the
lane,
northbound lane.
Northbound lane,
I saw it when I was headed home yesterday. It's, to my knowledge, it's just in the northbound lane, but it is the entire northbound lane, and it's not. I heard somebody, maybe even the mayor, say this has been sensationalized more than it really was. Well, go look at all those black marks and tell me if it's sensationalized.
What part of that is sensationalized?
I don't know.
Because if it was 3 cars or 30 cars, it really wouldn't make that much difference. It was shut down one way or the other.
Yeah, let's just shut down an interstate and,
If the ambulance had to leave the hospital and travel north for a wreck or something, whatever it happened to be on, let's say, county line, they couldn't get by there. They'd have to go some other way.
Well, and another thing, Paul, people probably didn't know what was going on up in front of them.
Yeah.
Next time it happens, there's going to be a guy who says, I wonder if they're doing that.
Yeah.
And I hope he doesn't try to take matters into his own hand. Folks get fed up and that sort of thing. So it's a dangerous situation.
It is, and I think it may be a good idea for somebody to look at it as far as stiffening the penalties, if that's a possibility, within the realms of law and with the powers bestowed upon the 2021 legislative session will be. But anyway, state legislature's first task will be to adopt the new state flag that voters approved with a magnolia blossom and the phrase, "In God We Trust." Tell me when this is going to happen and how will it happen?
We will start on that right out of the gate today. Mm-hmm. The House has a bill, House Bill 1. So that will be referred to Rules Committee, and Rules will meet and hopefully promptly pass that out of committee and pass it off the floor, and nobody objects, we're going to ask for immediate release and send it to the Senate and hope they will pass it in short order, and then it will await a governor's signature if he gets released.
The governor can sign that right away, could he?
He could.
And it becomes law right away if he does that.
Yes, sir. It's effective upon passage.
Is the flag flying now over the Capitol?
No, sir.
It can't fly until it's official?
Technically. I don't know that the flag police would come get us, but I think they were waiting so that they could have an official and prompt ceremony.
I'm wondering whose responsibility is in the state to make that happen.
Archives and History was involved in removing our former flag, and so I think they are planning a ceremony, an official ceremony, to come over and run them up all at the same time and kind of make a moment out of it. So
on your schedule for today, I know it's going to be rather busy to get things started, but there's a lot of perfunctory stuff that goes on. But what's on your schedule for today?
Well, this morning we will have a House Republican caucus meeting. We're going to meet here in Jackson, not at the Capitol. We'll meet away from the Capitol. So we've got that mid-morning, kind of get our ducks in a row there, and then we will gavel in at noon. Hopefully, we'll have to adjourn to have that committee meeting. So that's really the only order of business today. As you know, we've lost 3 former reps here in just the last 10 days, and so I think there'll be a lot of remembering of those guys, Representative Staples and Metatol and Ray Rogers. They were so well liked by the membership and the folks around the Capitol at large.
I shouldn't do this on the cuff, but I was just thinking: are there any other pending elections out there to fill vacancies? I think most of that's done, isn't it?
That's all done
for the most part. Certainly
yes,
in the House.
Yes, sir.
And I would think so also in the Senate. Well, I've asked the Lieutenant Governor yesterday. I mean, his views are a little bit different on several things, to be honest with you, than the leadership in the House. But what do you think the expectations are of how long you guys are going to stay after you gavel in at noon today?
You mean session-wise, not actually for today.
Yeah.
Our we've gone back and forth with that a little bit, but the bottom line was this: we're there, we're charged with doing the people's business. We are in the middle of a pandemic. Is it going to be over in March? Well, I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows. We're asking teachers to go get in those classrooms and teach if that's best for those kids. We're asking folks to go to work and build cars and helicopters and everything else. We feel like we ought to be there like our constituents are out working if we can and if we can do it safely. Now, we have put a lot of protocols in place. We have disbanded, for instance, with our PAGE program. We don't have all those teenagers running around, running errands for representatives and senators. We've disbanded with that for the session. We've cut down on all guests. There are no special recognitions. You know how we're doing a state championship every day, recognizing all of that stuff has been done away with. And then in the chamber, members basically are assigned a number. There will only be a few members in the chamber. Most members will some will get to be in the gallery. Others will go to their office. Every office has an audio from the chamber, so they can sit and listen to the debate. And then every person, we're going to do it kind of like the Senate does, kind of from a morning roll call stance. In other words, you're assumed to be voting yes unless you notify the clerk or the speaker you're voting no, and then you'll be given 5 minutes to get up to the chamber and vote no, so to speak. So we've put a lot of stuff in place. We're expecting folks to wear their mask and maintain their distance and do the very best we can. Now, who knows? You get an outbreak, then we'll have to deal with it.
Game,
we plan on trying to work. I understand where the lieutenant governor's coming from, but here's the final thing, Paul. Regardless of what the lieutenant governor wants to do or what the speaker wants to do, the place runs on votes. And what the members are saying to me in the hallway and on my cell phone and when I see them here and there is, we want to be in session and we want to get this done and get out of here. And so, right or wrong, this thing runs on votes and members' votes. True. And it would take a 2/3 vote to suspend the session.
From that statement, I would gather that they were not happy last year because everybody in there has got another job for the most part. If they don't, they should get another job.
They do. They have other jobs. They have families. They have communities that they serve in a variety of ways. Yeah. And we were down here. We
never knew when it was hard to book a trip if you had a business meeting somewhere.
That's right, and they're not looking for a repeat of that. Now, they're not going to neglect their duties, but at the same time, it's an issue for sure.
One of the differences we have here between the House and Senate, I think, is going to be on the tax reform. Are we going to look at it or not? Your views on that one. Lieutenant Governor yesterday was to the point said that he didn't favor that for the most part, looking at eliminating the income tax. And it was a little bit of a disconnect when I was trying to figure out was his concerns with just dropping the income tax, but I think you have to make that statement or plan those things by saying we're weaning ourselves. It's going to be a long time to do it, but we can do it as looking at it that way. Your thoughts on it as Speaker Pro Tem in the Mississippi House? And then Stephen Palazzo. We are back live in the Trustmark Studios. One opening quick shot here. Prominent Democratic mayor in North Mississippi said she is seeking a second term this year, but running as not a Democrat, as an independent. The honorable mayor of Oxford, Robin Tannehill, served as a Democrat on the Oxford Board of Aldermen before being elected mayor 2017, chosen 2020, served as on a commission that designed the new flag. Said garbage pickup, potholes, clean water, fire protection, and police protection aren't Democrat or Republican issues. Let's see. She now joins former legislator Steve Holland and the current mayor of Vicksburg, George Flaggs, as notable independents out there. Is anybody else I'm missing?
I believe Toby Barker in Hattiesburg.
Is Toby independent?
I think he's ran as an independent.
As an independent. Jason White, who is the House.
Those people are doing good jobs running their cities, Paul. Robin, Toby,
They
George,
are, and it's most difficult now, and I think it's going to get even more so to go under that label as a Democrat.
That'd be a good threesome if you brought those three in here and let them peppered them about municipal government.
I worry a little bit about George Flaggs since the shifting in Washington D.C. now, because George is a good politician. So.
Yeah, he can move around.
Larry King is now breathing on his own as COVID-19 hospitalization is out of ICU. So that's our Larry King update. All right, let's talk about the tax reform here. When the lieutenant governor is in, he was talking about maybe it's not the time to do this, but let's give a pay raise to teachers again. That seems to be his priority number one. Your thoughts on that?
Let me back up real quick, Paul, on the tax reform thing, and just lay a little bit of groundwork. The House has, and I'm not trying to seize high ground or say, oh, it was our idea. I'm just telling you, since about 2015 or 16, we have had hearings. We've tried to do a study, figure out what we can and can't do. What can we afford? How could we make the thing work? It will. I mean, it's just like anything else. You know, we would like to not tax people's income, and we would like to move more to a user-type tax system in this state, like some other states have done, that have made themselves attractive to folks. It will cost some money. What we looked at in moving on to this 4% tax bracket is phasing that in over a period of years. We're not going to be able to bite that thing off all at one time. That's how we've done when we did the 3% bracket. We would now move to the 4% bracket and eat away at that. And I heard somebody say, well, I mean, you're going to have to shrink government if you do that. Well, is that a bad thing? If we tighten our belt and figure out what we really got to have and what we really, where the fluff is and what we really don't need. Now, I'm not up here slash and burn. I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying it's something we're going to look at. I will say this. It will require House, Senate, and the governor's mansion all being on the same page.
I understand that.
And right now, today, maybe it goes without saying we're all three not on the same page on that issue. But because so many oxes will get gored in that deal, everybody's got to be on the same page when it comes to that. And
it will be
for my
tough
part, I'm going to work hard for that. Trey Lamar has spent a bunch of time and brain power trying to tee something up that we think we can pass a package in the House that eliminates the 4% tax bracket this session. And that's the direction we're going to move.
What's the income bracket on that one?
It's the 4%. In other words, we've already phased out. Well, we're phasing out the 3% that will go all the way on out, I think, by 2022. And so our thought is pick it up right there and start phasing out with the next one.
Well, we don't know how many Mississippians that would include.
Well, it would
it's
include
quite a few.
It would include all of them that are paying taxes.
Well, I understand that, but as far as in that income bracket.
And that's actually $2,000 or $3,000 in everybody's pocket.
Yeah. So that's the thing that people need to understand is when you get your paycheck, the government is not pulling money out of it because you worked, you earned that.
That's right.
It's your money.
It's yours on the front end.
You're being punished for working.
Right.
And you're giving money to other people who are not working, and we got a lot of other avenues to do that. So when anybody talks about we can't do it, we can't afford it, well, if you want to get a pay raise to the average voter out there, we talked about pay raises for teachers. Teachers got a pay raise. Teachers get incremental raises every year, depending on what they're doing as far as their experience and their tenure. We understand that. The public employees haven't got a raise in a while. Highway patrol people. Have they gotten a raise in a while?
They have not. And here's another thing. The private workforce themselves, just ask the average guy you meet, in the barbershop or in the coffee shop or wherever today. He hadn't gotten a raise at his place of employment in a long time. That's one way we put money back in his pocket. Yeah. That's a raise, no matter how you look at it. It's a raise, and it's really, what we say we're supposed to be about as conservatives running government.
Well,
in the state.
And the other way, if somebody's going to go out and buy a boat or a car or something like that, and the sales tax is a little bit more, that's more of a user tax. And if you can afford to buy a Cadillac, you're going to be spending a little bit more. We can understand that, and I think people will figure that in. But they also have to figure in that they're saving money from their paycheck. But I don't know how. I know how Texas does it, because Texas made, and they were easy to wean because they're a big oil and energy state. Florida, big as far as tourism. I'm not too sure about Tennessee. How they supplanted that and where they switched those.
They slightly raised their sales tax.
That was it.
And well, you hear people say, well, they're car tags or they're property taxes or they're other things. We can't lay this on property taxes and ad valorem, because those people, the people of Mississippi, taxpayers, property owners, are already paying too much there, and a huge burden of taxes is paid there. So that part we've got to really be careful about, not price ourselves out of the game. In other words, we eliminate income tax, but yet we price ourselves out because other things go up. So that's the deal. That's where the trick is in this whole deal, is figuring out that sweet spot.
I've got a list of the U.S. states with the most people moving in and the U.S. state with the most people moving out, and it really has a lot of correlation with income taxes and the taxes per state. I'll do that a little bit later on, not to take your time with that one. But the lieutenant governor was also on talking about the incentives programs and to rework those. Your thoughts on that?
They need reworked. Lots of people have been, in this short off season we've had since we were out of session in October, I've heard from lots of different industries, different economic development folks in their respective areas, have been down to the Cap visiting, not only with the lieutenant governor, but with the speaker and myself and Senator Harkins, the chairman of finance in the Senate, and Representative Lamar in the House, who chairs Ways and Means. They want more of a structure that they can understand, that they don't have to have the state necessarily holding their hand every time they're courting a potential new development or a new industry that may be coming to town. They want some certainty into what they can offer and say, hey, here's what we've got, something that's fair and kind of across the board for everybody. So I do think you will see some reform in that regard, and not just Wild Wild West, where we've just been, hey, well, for these people, we'll do this, and then the next people show up and say, well, y'all did that for them. What about us? We would like to get some uniformity. And
it's amazing this hasn't been done before, to be honest with you.
Actually know what we're getting for our buck. The tax, that's taxpayer money. And the guy says, what are you doing with my money?
Back in the Haley Barbour, if you had any stain on his administration, and I'm not sure it was something he saw coming, but we did lose quite a bit of money as far as some people coming in promising a lot of things, and then they just didn't deliver. Everything from wood chips to solar.
That's right.
And I'm not even going to get to the Terry McAuliffe deal up with the Chinese in Tunica.
Yeah, there was a car somewhere.
That was a massive car plant. It's one of the funniest things I think I have ever heard. But then from Terry McAuliffe, anything that he touches, it was amazing, number one, to even mention those two people in the same group, Terry McAuliffe and Haley Barbour. But all right, the other thing that we wanted to talk about was the Medicaid. That's going to be a big deal.
It's a big deal, and with a COVID session, if you want to call it. We're still in the middle of this pandemic and trying to do the people's business. That is one thing that we have to get done this session.
Let's finish on that one in just a minute. Can we do that?
Yeah.
We'll end it with the Medicaid and what's going to happen with that. With the Speaker Pro Tem, it's Jason White. And mud bugs around the corner.
They just boil them a little longer.
Oh, man, I am ready. 3 Mississippi Supreme Court justices beginning new 8-year terms. Those being inaugurated yesterday were inaugurated yesterday. Yesterday was Chief Justice Mike Randolph, Presiding Justice Leslie D. King, and Justice Joshua D. Dennis Coleman, and congratulations to them. So what are we going to do as far as the Medicaid? And walk me through this exactly. You got to get it done. You can't hold over.
We've got to get it done. Medicaid, as you know, Paul, because you're engaged, it's an executive agency. Mm-hmm. You know, the governor appoints an executive director, and they run the deal. And Drew Snyder's doing a great job over there. I'll throw a shout-out to him every chance I get because he is doing a great job. He's accessible. You can call him anytime, and if he doesn't know the answer, which he usually does, but if he doesn't, he'll get right back to you with it, and he's been very responsive and done a great job. He runs Medicaid under the direction of the governor, if you will. But then there's this whole section of laws that says you run Medicaid, but you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. And there's been, over the years, us stinking politicians keep adding a layer of, hey, don't forget you got to do this, or you must reimburse a doctor at least at this rate if he's seeing Medicaid patients. Or we will pay for this, we won't pay for that. Because, again, we're talking about taxpayer money.
These are things added on at the state level, not the federal level?
Well, it's a federal program with the state match, so you're always dealing with CMS as to any change you make has to be approved.
When you say these stinking politicians, are you talking about the stinking politicians in Mississippi or D.C.?
Well, they both stink from time to time, but I'm mainly talking about our state legislature over the years.
So the state has added a lot of stuff to that.
I'm being critical, and I'll include myself in that.
But you can change it, though.
We can change those things. And what I mean is the lawmakers didn't stay out of it. They made it an executive agency, and then they started fooling with it, like saying, yeah, we want you to run it. They put it on Bill Allain when he became governor. They said, oh, you want to be governor so bad and get after the legislature, we're going to give you something really to play with. Here's Medicaid. And so they did it just kind of tongue-in-cheek. You go run it.
So are there a lot of things that need to be changed?
They need to be really, really looked at because we're spending $1 billion a year on it, and that whole budget with the federal money is over $6 billion. It's more than our whole state budget. We spend with federal and state dollars in Mississippi. We spend over $6 billion.
Right now, can we afford to expand that?
We cannot afford it. We can't afford what we've got right now, Paul. Spending fifth, almost a quarter of our budget on Medicaid. Well, we can't afford that. And Drew's done a great job of holding that cost down, but still delivering a service for these folks that need it, and trying to keep them out of the ER and running cost up and all of those things. But these technical amendments, things like, if providers are willing to see Medicaid patients, we want them to get reimbursed. There's this whole issue of managed care, and you've heard some of the talk of that. And then you have the hospitals, they come in with their – but there's not a facet of healthcare in Mississippi that's not affected by the regulations that we put in place and the way that we run our Medicaid program. And so you can imagine the lobbyists and the industries that show up that all have a hand in that game.
Absolutely, I understand that. Are the lobbyists allowed at the Capitol now? They're not banned?
What we have asked is unless there is a specific bill coming up that you are specifically engaged in, we've asked them to stay away. And last session, they did a good job.
They did a good job on that one.
Maybe that, or they were just scared for their life. I don't know. But we're online, especially when everything that's in session is online. And so they keep up. Trust me, they've got somebody there.
What the task at hand, and I hate to push you, but we got a short segment here. The task at hand is to make sure you renew it. Number one, to renew it, but try to renew it with more efficiency.
Renew it with more efficiency and be sure that we are doing the very best job we can, spending these tax dollars where they need to be spent and in such a way that we're getting a healthier Medicaid population who may get off of Medicaid, who may get a real job and get private insurance.
Could you guys put a health savings account in there?
We could do all kind of things if, the political will was there.
The other
Now,
part of that is how long does this
again,
last when you renew it?
Don't forget, if a Biden administration takes their oath and takes their seat, they'll be running CMS, so that'll be a whole different deal than
that is true.
the Trump administration we've been dealing with.
So how long is the renewal?
Typically 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years. Have you seen, this is January the 5th, have you seen the numbers for December?
For
the state revenue?
Yes, and I don't have those with me.
Were they up or down?
They're up.
They are
They're
up?
up, yeah.
Was they over last year or over estimates?
Yes.
Well, that's good news.
They're up tremendously, actually.
Is that right?
We'll see if that holds.
Good. Always good talking to you, sir.
Good to be here.
Thank you for coming
Paul.
in. Appreciate it. Stay safe. Jason White, who's the Speaker Pro Tem of the Mississippi House. By the way, from District